17 Golden State Warriors taking on the 95-96 Chicago Bulls. This is being played on NBA 2K18 on the PS4. Now, before I get started with this, I do have to say that I did adjust the rosters on the Warriors because this was including this year's current roster, and they lost some players like Matt Barnes and Ian Clark, some guys that I wanted to make sure were on the roster, and I took off anybody who wasn't on the roster last year. So that being said, we're all ready to go, and this is going to be a simulation of what it would be like if these two teams squared off. I just wanted to do it this way so you guys get a taste, because this is the only way we can really somewhat visually see what this matchup would look like. So what this is going to do is simulate game by game in a kind of quick score simulation. It'll show some statistics and just kind of give some, brief prediction of what may happen, at least in video game format. So that being said, here is game one. It's taking place in Golden State, which is fitting because they had the most wins in history a year before this year that we're discussing today. So I'm going to go ahead and simulate here at the end of the game one. I also turned off fatigue because players are a little bit older in Chicago, so I want to give a fair chance. And game one goes to the Golden State Warriors. So not much of a surprise. I did say in my podcast that I thought Golden State would take game 1 and 2 in Golden State. It'd be a home court pretty much matchup the entire way through. I predicted that it would go 7 games, but who knows what the video game will have happen. So let's go ahead and see what took place. Steph Curry led the team with 35 points, 4 steals. Then you got Klay Thompson just below him at 27, Kevin Durant with a double-double, and JaVale McGee with a double-double as well. And for the Bulls, Michael Jordan, an impressive 48 points, almost a double-double, nearly a triple-double actually. Shot the ball fairly well, as you can see here, over 50%. Over 50% as well from behind the arc, so he played to the era, at least, that the Warriors are playing in today. And below him, Scottie Pippen, his main sidekick. Pick up the slack. Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Warriors, just getting 2 points and 5 assists on 18 minutes. So there's that. The Warriors take game 1. Let's see what game 2 has in store. Game 2 underway. Go ahead and simulate this a little faster now. And game 2 goes to the Warriors as well by just a point. Looks like Klay Thompson came away with 25. Led the team, actually. And then Kevin Durant below him. Pretty much a team effort in this game, it looks like. Team shooting the ball pretty well through and through. No numbers that really jump out at you besides JaVale McGee and Steph Curry getting a double-double. That's JaVale McGee's second of the series. See how the fouls are going. Not too bad. And for the Bulls, Jordan, again, doing everything he can to try to keep his team in this game. Shooting well from behind the arc. Shooting well from the field. 42 points. And then just the rest of the team after that. So this is pretty much coming down to a battle of the depth, honestly. Jordan's the scorer for the Bulls, and for the Warriors, they're outpacing them. They got too many guys, spreading the ball around well, and everybody's finding a way to make a contribution. So far it's Michael Jordan versus the Warriors, and the entire Warriors team is obviously winning that matchup. So there's game 3. We're taking this to Chicago now. Hopefully it should be a close game. But again, the Warriors come up big, 115-104. Now we're on the verge of a sweep, an impressive sweep against the 95-96 Bulls. And Steph Curry shooting 8 for 14 from behind the arc. 38 points. That'll probably be enough to put him at the head of the MVP candidate for the NBA Finals. And now we got the Chicago Bulls here. MJ didn't shoot quite as explosively as he did in previous games, but still got 23 points. Luke Longley coming out of nowhere with 21 points as well. Same amount of rebounds as MJ. And Scottie Pippen getting a triple-double. So at least more guys are getting involved with Chicago now, but it looks like it might be too late. As you see Steve Kerr, even with only 18 minutes played, he's got 4 for 6 from behind the arc and got 12 points. Maybe he should be playing a little bit more. And Dennis Rodman fouled out. Not much of a surprise there as well. So far this series is going a little bit different than I had originally expected. This is a video game simulation anyway, so it's not saying this is the end-all be-all and what would actually take place, but it is interesting to see that, at least in this 2K simulation, it's all going Warriors' way. So let's see if we have a clean sweep. a sweep over these Bulls would be very, very impressive. So let's see what 2K has in store. We're going to slow it down a little bit as we're getting to the closing minutes of a potential elimination game. As you see, they're neck and neck going into the fourth, but it looks like Bulls are holding a tight lead on them. This would be big if they can come back in this series and at least get a win here to avoid the sweep. MJ's been undefeated, obviously, in the finals. All right, so finally, the Bulls get their first win on the verge of a sweep. Now they're down just 3-1, and they still have a tough road ahead of them to get back in the series, but at least they cut that deficit down a couple of games. Or one game, rather, sorry. So Kevin Durant got 25 points, Curry 24. Team, again, shooting the ball pretty well, as you can see here in the field goal percentage. 11 for 22, 10 for 23. Klay Thompson struggled a little bit, but all in all, pretty good outing. Let's see, Michael Jordan came away with 47 points, so he's really just putting the team on his back at this point, trying to carry them to come back in the series. Scottie Pippen, after the triple-double performance, comes back with a double-double on 22 points and 11 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field as well. So yeah, so far, I mean, it's been a Warriors series, but in desperation mode, the Bulls pull out a win at home. So they still have a lot left that they have to, they have a lot left to climb. But let's see if they can get back in this. So now we're back in Golden State, and I'm gonna expect that Golden State does win this series. Ultimately, they're up 3-1, and usually video games are not too lenient on trying to create miracles, so I wouldn't expect to see a 3-0 comeback in a simulation anyways. But we're going to go ahead and send this a little bit faster and slow it down as we're getting to the fourth. Alright, so we're in the winding minutes of the fourth, and it looks like the Warriors are pulling away a little bit. So the Bulls are making a last-ditch effort to try to save this series, but in the end it will be Golden State locking down the championship on their home court. 4-1. So after that impressive performance, it looks like 2K simulation shows that the Golden State Warriors would defeat the Chicago Bulls 4-1 in a series. And it really says a lot about both teams. As you see here, Michael Jordan again leading the team far and away in points and minutes. So MJ doing what I kind of expected he would do in real life. He puts the team on his back and pretty much does most of the scoring, but the problem is after that, who's left to score? Scottie Pippen's his main guy, but where was he this series? He didn't have that much. He had an impressive 21 rebounds. Sorry, that was Dennis Rodman, rather. Wow, 21 rebounds. Scottie Pippen just had 8 points and 6 rebounds, 8 assists. But, MJ put the team on his back, and that's what he would do in a real setting, I believe. They actually got the chance to face each other, but this Golden State team is just too deep, at least in this 2K simulation, as it shows here. Now, something that this can't capture that I think is important to note. So video game just goes based off of overalls and basic statistics, and they do a generalized simulation based off those numbers. Now, something they can't capture is the intangibles. I mentioned before in my podcast, I thought a big thing in this matchup, and it's not going to be represented well in a video game format or any sort of simulation you can do with these two teams. The intangibles is something you can't put a number on. I think back then, you saw the Chicago Bulls would play a tough game. They got guys like, Dennis Rodman, who would just get in people's faces, and he would just make it tough. He'd make it tough on defenders, or offensive people, rather. He'd defend the post well, and, you see here, I mean, he out-rebounded probably the entire Warriors team every single game at least. I don't think anyone out-rebounded him throughout the series. Not much of an offensive threat, so there wasn't much of a threat there. But look, all in all, I mean, the Warriors just had too many weapons, and it proved to be too much at the end of the day. Michael Jordan's probably one of the best players to ever play the game, if not the best player. It's debatable between him and LeBron, but it's tough. I mean, this only takes statistics, so you have to take that into consideration. But if you're strictly a stats person, then, I mean, yeah, the Warriors got it right here. But you got to consider what it's like to actually play against these people in real life. MJ would get in the head. He was a trash talker on the court. Dennis Rodman got in fights plenty of times, got thrown out of games plenty of times. Him versus Draymond Green. Who would actually last the longest in a game before they got fouled out? So, I mean, even the coaches. You got Phil Jackson versus Steve Kerr. I mean, Steve Kerr is not that well established as a coach. He fell into a great situation. Mike Brown actually coached the team during their playoff run with this roster, and then Steve Kerr came back and they won the championship. I'm not taking away from Steve Kerr. He is a good head coach, greatest of all time. So you have to consider some of these things when we're doing these simulations, that it's not going to be 100% accurate. This is just something to go off of, just something else to make you think about what it would be like if these two teams matched up. I'm going to have more information below here with the rest of this. I'm planning on adding a interview I'm doing with Dr. Pat Faribault. He's written a couple books, one about Maurice Stokes, an alumni here that played for St. Francis. This is just something to consider. I'm trying to give you guys different levels of expectations of what you might be able to take away from what this series would look like. This is all just speculation. That's all this can be. It's just hypothetical, but it's something to consider and think about. Kevin Durant, I think if these two teams played each other in real life, I mean, he's a little bit soft, he is, but he, was playing a heated game, a heated series against the Cavs last season in real life, and he did pretty well. He ended up being the MVP. So, would Kevin Durant really only score 14 points and close that game? Who knows? But, this is all something to consider. I do think Jordan's numbers are about where he'd be. I think, in desperation mode, would he have more points? Possibly. But they also probably play him double, sometimes triple teamed, even with Draymond, Steph, and Kevin Durant. But Michael Jordan's been double, triple teamed before, and he's put up 40, 50, 60. So it's tough. It's tough to say what would actually happen, but it's something to consider. So now we're going to move ahead just to show you guys who was the MVP. I'm assuming it's Steph Curry, and it is. Steph Curry averaged 30 points a game, 5.5 rebounds about, and just over 7 assists rather. Shot the ball well from behind the arc and shot it well in the field, so he deserves to be MVP. But so it was impressive series win for them. Can't say I'm that surprised in 2K simulation, but like I said, this is all just something to give you guys the tools you need to make an accurate prediction in your head. This is all speculation, so all I can ask is that you consider everything that I've laid out here for you guys and make a prediction of your own. So that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this broadcast. I hope you all enjoyed this narration, rather, of a simulation. But this is all just more or less bar talk, so I'm happy to do it here with y'all. I love sports, and so if you guys have anything else you guys would like to see happen, by the way, I'm doing a little bit of self-promotion here. I do these kind of things on my own here or there. I like to do simulations and do other what-if matchups, dream matchups, rather. So if you guys have anything else you would like to see down the road, just let me know. I would love to do some independent projects on different, whether it's, sports matchups with different teams or just a couple players, going one-on-one or in different sports, rather. Whatever you guys would like to see, just let me know, and I'm happy to do it. But it's been my pleasure doing this for you all, and until next time, hope you guys all have a great day. Thank you very much.